what I'm going to do in this video is just check a few things like the levels of all the fluid and general wear and tear, and the things that just sort of need to be checked over when the car gets serviced. Okay, so one of the simplest things to check is the oil level. So there's the dipstick right there. So let's pull it out and just see what the level is like. So the way you need to do this is don't do it as soon as the car's been running. Let it sit there for a bit. And just grab yourself a rag as well. So you need to initially pull out the dipstick and then just give the end of it a wipe down with a rag. Because what happens is when the car's moving, the oil level doesn't sit completely level, it splashes about, it's a liquid. So clean off the end of the dipstick, then dip it back in. Make sure you clip it all the way down, and then we'll just pull it out again and have a look at our reading. Okay, so on here you can sort of see that the oil covers all the way up to the top, so it's the level in this car is correct. Alright, the next thing to just check on are the drive belts. The service manual says that you don't need to inspect these for at least 100,000 Ks, but I still like to just sort of eyeball and have a look at the actual belt. You can see a bit of it there, it says Gates on it. I'll get a better view from underneath, but the main thing you want to just check is that there's no cracks in that rubber belt. So I'll have another look when we move the car and look underneath. Alright, the next item on the list is the coolant level. So take a look inside there. Now the way they design this, if you look on this side here, that's where the label says, so that's the maximum height when the engine is cold. Obviously it's been sitting there and it's cooled down a bit, so you can see the height of the coolant in there. It's slightly above the center seam, so where the coolant is at the moment, that height, it probably needs a little bit added to it, but not much more. I'll just add a bit to it. So this coolant I'm adding, it's already been pre-mixed. And it doesn't need a huge amount, it's just to bring the height of it up a little bit. Okay, over to the other side of the engine now. The next thing you want to check is the brake fluid level. And I'll just take that cap off, and the maximum line is sort of right here near the top. So the level that it is sitting at now, I can see the fluid right at the top there. So the level is absolutely fine for that. And whenever you're inspecting things, so something like the brake fluid, you just want to check to make sure there's no leaks around the brake booster itself, and that all looks nice and clean. Alright, so while we're in this same area of the car, the next thing to check is the power steering level. So I'm just going to lift it out. I've got another clean rag now because I don't want to mix the chemicals. The way that this works, it actually has like a little dipstick which is built into the lid, and on that there is a gauge, a min and a max. So we'll just dip it in slowly. You need to turn it and close it down because that will affect the height. Lift it out again, and I can see that it's up to the maximum, so that's fine. Alright, next is the air cleaner element. I've done a whole video which shows you how to undo all of this to inspect the air cleaner element. I know that's fine because I've only just changed it. Okay, next we'll just check out the battery. So this is a sealed unit, and on here there's a little window, and if you look through that window, depending on the colour or the condition of the battery, it'll be a different colour. So at the moment it's green, which means the battery's okay. If it was black, it would mean the battery needs to be charged, and if it's white, the battery needs to be replaced. The next thing you want to do is just check these terminals to make sure there's no corrosion on them, and they are both looking okay. Okay, next I'm just going to check the wiper wash filler. What I'm actually going to do this time, I've got this bottle of additive. It's rain repellent. Maybe it's meant to help clean it as well. This gets added in 100 mils each time, so that's about 1/5 of this bottle. So I'll add that into it first, and then I'll top up the rest with water. Okay, so before we finish up underneath the hood, the main thing that you want to also check is any leaks or signs of fluids or anything that you think shouldn't be like that. So you just give the whole thing a check over. You'll probably need a torch to sort of shine down and look into places, especially around here as well. Check the turbo, make sure there's no oil leaks on there or any other leaks, coolant leaks as well. So that all looks fine. So we'll close up the bonnet and then have a look at the next part. Alright, so I've got myself one of these creeper trolleys to lay on, and what we want to do is just give everything a good inspection underneath. So if you start off with the engine, make sure there's no fluid leaks, coolant leaks or anything like that. You can sort of check some of these hoses up there too, make sure there's no leaks. On the actual bottom of the actual engine itself, I'll just check that. That's where we filled up the oil yesterday, the sump plug. There's no leaks there at all. It's nice and dry. Transmission, there's no leaks either, so that is looking good. Just checking up at the back of the engine for any signs of leaks, and everything else looks okay there. Just this side as well. That all looks okay. And this side's okay too. Just while we're here, the other thing we want to check are any the boots, so CV joint boots. Make sure there's no cracks on there. Make sure the actual boot itself is not split in any way. And then again on the actual steering, you have another boot. Just make sure that's not torn and broken either. Okay, let's just check the other side. So that's all fine. Okay, so while we're under here, we'll have a look at some of the transmission. This drive shaft leads to the rear axle. Just make sure there's no leaks. That's all looking fine. Okay, making our way towards the rear of the vehicle. This is where the diesel fuel filters are. I'm not sure whether you've looked at that previous video, but what you need to do is drain this, open up this little hole here, this filler here, and drain a bit of the liquid out of there. So at the very bottom you'll have some water. You may not have any, but once the water drains out, diesel is less dense, so it floats on top, and then diesel comes out, and then close that plug up. So that's the normal service procedure to drain that. So the other things to look for are wherever you have hoses, make sure there's no leaks. So fuel lines, make sure there's no leaks. Brake lines, no leaks. Okay, so the underneath seems fine. So what I'll do now is just take it off these ramps, and there's a few more things that we've got to check out. Okay, so the next thing to check are the brakes and the rotors. Make sure there's no massive grooves on there. You can actually just visually just see how much material there is left on that pad. They seem okay. It's always good to take the wheel off and actually check them properly. The other thing to check the tyres, make sure there's no damage to the tyres, and also the tread depth as well. So do that on the front and rear. You may also need to rotate your tyres too. Okay, so a few things with the doors that you might want to lubricate. I've got this stick of dry lubricant. That's good for things like the actual striker plates on the doors. Put a bit of lubricant on those. On the actual hinge itself, you can use WD-40. So when you're lubricating the door hinges, no need to go crazy on it. Just apply a bit on there, and also this check strap too. Just a bit of WD-40 on that too. And then finally, we have to just check all the electrics, make sure the lights are all working, indicators are all working, brake lights as well. So you may need an assistant to help you do that. And then give it a road test, check if there's anything that just doesn't feel right. Check also the handbrake operation too. This has got an electric handbrake, so that makes things a bit easier. But make sure you park on a slope and you can sort of just make sure that it holds. The other thing as well, wipers, make sure they are working okay, and the actual jet to squirt the water is working too. So to finish off, you can check out a few things like make sure all the seat belts are working, seats are all firmly secured in there. Also check the horn, make sure that works as well, because that's important. Alright guys, thanks for watching my videos. Hopefully this has given you a good idea of what sort of things that you need to check apart from just changing the oil. And I hope you've enjoyed it, so thanks for watching my videos. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already done that.